RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, opinions, or statements of its guests or advertisers. The information contained in this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice. An appearance on the show is not to be considered an endorsement. As always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of Comfy Sunday. As always, I'm your host, RP. Joining me tonight in the studio, my good friend and co-host, M3, and the incomparable Deanna Lorraine. Please, everyone, do consider liking and sharing this broadcast. Help us break through the algorithm. Appreciate the help. We've got Patriots from all over the globe already. Hope you guys are staying safe. We're going to be talking about the state of the world tonight, amongst other things. Hope you guys have had a good weekend. If you're in California and you want to support Deanna in her quest to dethrone Nancy Pelosi, I'm sure you'll understand in a little bit how to do that. All right, guys, please, everyone, do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. It is so important to keep your body healthy and youthful all the time these days. Collagen may be the closest thing we'll ever get to a real fountain of youth, while also forming a wall of defense between your immune system and the rest of your body. 75 to 90% of your skin, bones, joints, and tendons are all made of this age-defying nutrient. The older you are, the more likely it's caught your attention, and that's for good reason. Many health experts now agree that consuming collagen is as crucial as it gets to renew and revitalize how you look and feel. After all, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body, and essentially it's the glue that holds yourself together. And after age 20, people produce about 12% less collagen in their skin each decade. For some, it's an even greater decline. Now, what this means is that by the time you're middle-aged, you could be producing less than half the collagen you did in your youth. And even worse, various lifestyle factors you might have been exposed to, like poor diet, smoking, pollution, stress, and even excess sun exposure, can deplete your collagen levels even faster. Some of the benefits of using collagen are making your skin healthy and supple and giving you a youthful look, making your hair healthy and younger looking, supporting your joint flexibility, strengthening your nails, teeth, and gums, promoting strong, healthy muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and promoting strong, healthy bones and digestive health. So visit my page at healthwithredpill.com, that's healthwithredpill.com, and secure your supply of the best collagen on the market. I use it myself and I trust it. The link is in the description, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're all having a lovely evening. Methods, how are you tonight, my friend?
Man, I'm doing good. Feeling pretty refreshed. Been taking it easy the last few days, so
nice.
It's been great. You know, we all got to do that. I hope everybody in the chat's doing well. I hope everybody's having a great Sunday, a great weekend, and yeah, I'm excited for tonight, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Most definitely. You guys, I can't stress enough how important it is that you guys like and share the program. Obviously, they are not sending out notifications. I need your help in order to make sure we get as many eyes on the broadcast as possible. So yeah, whatever you can do, I really appreciate it. We got to let people know that this show is here, that we're not going away, and that we're going to continue the mission no matter what. So as I said in the intro, we have Deanna Lorraine. She's going to be here in the second hour. We're all very excited for that. I know that lots of people were hitting me up on Twitter saying they couldn't wait to see her tonight. And Methods, apparently it wasn't that way on your feed.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, she makes anybody who follows her on Twitter, and I'll drop the link here in a second so you guys get, because I mean, if you aren't following her, I personally enjoy seeing what she's got to say. She makes a lot of waves, a lot of noise, and she doesn't hold back. And when I was promoting the show, I was catching on to the bots that she was telling us in pre-show about how they come after her and just say nonsense. It's obviously really quick. When they tweet out, they plan these bots to show up anytime she tweets because she makes a lot of noise. And the fact that she was going up against Pelosi, obviously she would be targeted.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's pretty funny. So it seems like things have kind of chilled out a little bit around the country. This weekend, they were expecting a protest of like over 1 million people, and they had maybe 10,000 if they were lucky.
No, the promotion was over 10,000 when they had told us it was going to be 1 million. Like how they just like to fluff up situations.
Yeah,
but yeah, they had over 10,000. That's still, I mean, that's a lot of people for a protest. But and even though I didn't pay attention to a whole lot this weekend, I was, like I said, taking it easy. I haven't heard of too much that's happened. So it does feel kind of like it's calming down a bit. Like they sent out the order to all the chaos creators, the infamous word I'm not going to say tonight, that they kind of were told, to stand down a little bit so they could make it about this protest, and paint some names on some streets and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, so slightly more than 1% of the amount of people that they were hoping to have. I'm pretty excited about this because it seems, in my estimation, that these people are running out of steam. They came in hard and heavy at the very beginning, and they just do not have the stamina or staying power to keep it up. So Secretary Esper, I guess, did disperse all of the National Guard people there. This was after he gave them the de-arm option, told them to put their arms away, switch from their hard helmets to soft caps. I was a little bit nervous when I saw that Esper did that, but I guess I'm not in Washington, D.C., so I wasn't there on the ground. I didn't see how it was going. So obviously, I think that they have a little bit better grasp on it than I do or anybody else who's not there. So it's a good thing, I mean, we don't want there to be just unbridled and unrestrained chaos taking place all over the country, just nonstop. So if these people are ready to go home, that is wonderful. I did see something on Twitter. Somebody was saying something about drafting Jesse Ventura for president. And I know, I used to like Jesse Ventura. He used to do a TV show that I used to enjoy quite a bit. But, I mean, he just doesn't have the energy that President Trump has. And I don't think that he has the juice to get things done in the same way that President Trump has been able to get things done in his, nearly 4 years in office. And what's just so remarkable to me about it is that even despite all of the obstruction and the people standing in his way, he has been incredibly successful as a president. He's done a wonderful job. And I just want to stress to everybody, just make sure that you vote in November. Make sure that we continue to support the president. Make sure that we are there if they need us, because we need President Trump and he needs us to be there to support him. So,
I totally agree with you on that. And I see somebody in the chat. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Vicky Richardson says Floyd's twin is threatening our president. Now to that point, I will say, yeah, I didn't like the clip at all. I don't like anybody talking about revolting against the president. But just to be clear, even though he called him his brother, that's just, just referring to him as being, one of his own, somebody he's going to support as the family.
A colloquialism.
Right. I mean, that happened with when what was his name? Terrence got into that accident, and you referred to somebody being a brother of somebody or a nephew, and everybody ran with it. And I was like, no, it's just a reference type thing. But that guy right there that everybody's saying is the twin is Steven Jackson. He's an ex-NBA player. He's an NBA analyst that says he was friends with him, which makes it actually even more suspect if you think about it. It's like, how do you know him then? Maybe we need to dig on him a little bit. But yeah, to me, the whole thing, whole thing is a mess. They're still going to be doing memorial services this week, which is I'm all for celebrating the life of somebody and doing all that. But I mean, how long is this going to go on, man?
Well, I mean, as long as people are giving to the GoFundMe, I bet you it continues. Last time I checked, it was over $13.1 million, which is just an incredible amount of money that people have brought in. My question is, who's going to get that? Is that going to go directly to his family, or is that going to go to some organization, like the Open Society Foundation or something like that? I mean, is it going to go to help his daughter? I mean, let's be fair. He has a 6-year-old daughter who now doesn't have a father. I don't know what kind of father George Floyd was, but I think that it's tragic when any child has a parent die at that young age. I mean, it doesn't matter how old they are. I mean, anytime a parent dies, I mean, it's horrible. But, if anything happens, then I hope that little girl is taken care of. That is the number one thing on my playlist right now.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. And I'm seeing here in the chat, somebody said it and it just jumped on me. Jill Forthman says, I heard that Floyd died 3 years ago. I've been seeing that passed around. I haven't seen anything personally credible. Like I said, I took the last few days. So if anybody's got anything on that, I'd like to look at it. But all I'm seeing is like graphics that are made claiming it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's a thing. I mean, we did see him on video. But you know how this goes, man. They're always trying to put on a presentation for maximum effect.
Right.
So I don't know, but I just wanted to bring that up because I checked my messages and I had a lot about that.
Let me say thank you to Elise. Let me say thank you to Anita. Thank you to Sandra. Thank you to Rick. Thank you to Eric and Chris from yesterday. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Now, I have a story I wanted to tell. Louis lost his brother last night. Louis, I'm so sorry to hear that, buddy. Prayers for Louis, prayers for his brother.
Let's get a 17 for Louis out there in the chat, guys. If you guys don't mind doing that, losing any loved one, especially one that's close. Yeah, that's very tragic. We obviously don't know the details, Louis, but we'll be praying for you and your family. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Whatever happens, it's never an easy thing to go through. So just know that we're here for you. And, this is, to me, one of the most gratifying aspects of being able to do this is that we can be here to support each other through whatever it is that we're going through. Now, I want to tell this story. So I'm getting choked up even just thinking about it. Okay, so obviously this week, everything happened, and I have been a little bit uneasy about the way things are going to go from here on out. I want to be able to, continue to live, continue to survive, continue to take care of the people in my life, and continue to produce content that I feel is relevant and valuable to the community. So last night, Real Red Pill Girlfriend and I were talking on the phone. So it starts with me walking the dogs. So I'm a bit of a rock hound, okay? I collect minerals, I collect different types of crystals. Doesn't matter what kind it is. I've always been fascinated by them. I think they're beautiful. And so I've got a huge rock collection. And when we were driving to California last year, we stopped in Sedona, Arizona. Sedona is like the rock and mineral capital of the United States. Every year, in Arizona, they do this giant gem and mineral show, and it's a couple of days. They have a bunch of buildings, and they just fill up all of these different rock specimens in there, and you can buy them. So we went to this store, and one of the things that I bought, besides a couple of pieces for my collection, was a necklace. A necklace for Real Red Pill Girlfriend. And it's called rutilated quartz. It's like a crystal formation that has filaments of another mineral growing inside of it. And it's amazing to see this, because you think about how these rocks and these formations are created inside the earth over millions of years, and then finally somebody breaks them out of the ground, and just the way that they form, I just love it. So when I was walking the dogs, I walked down this path that I take all the time, and sitting on the ground was the card, the insert from that necklace, talking about the formation that was in there. And I was like, wow, that's weird. I mean, what are the chances that somebody in my neighborhood went and bought like the same type of rock? I mean, there is a chance. There is a chance. Let me say that, because rutilated quartz is not like super rare. But I saw that. And then I picked it up and I took it home. Later, I went back and got it, to pick it up and take it home. But when Red Pill Girlfriend and I were on the phone, we were looking at pendants that she liked, and she was just showing me pictures. And then she said, this is probably not the time to be looking at pendants, considering what happened. And I was like, it's okay, we're just having fun. And she sent me a picture of one that she liked. And when it arrived, it was not a picture of the pendant that she had taken. It was a meme of two rustic loaves of bread. And it said, written over the picture, manna from heaven. And this is as close as I could get it. This is not the exact image, but this is what it looked like. It was 2 loaves of bread, and it said manna from heaven. And I said, what is this that you've sent me? And she said, it's a pendant. And I said, no. And I described to her what I saw, and it disappeared. It turned into the image that she had sent me. Now, to me, this was a message directly from God, because manna is what God provided to the Israelites when they were in the desert so that they wouldn't starve. And the message is that no matter what happens, I'm going to be provided for. I'm going to be taken care of. I'm going to have exactly what I need to keep living and to keep fighting and to keep doing what I'm doing here. But I got to tell you guys, it was an incredible experience to see something appear in our text message that she did not send me, and then to watch it disappear. It just changed into the actual picture she had sent. And I can't explain it. I can't explain it other than to say that I honestly feel that it was a message from God. So, I got goosebumps too, and I mean, like, I get emotional anytime I think about it, because, I mean, we were talking about the situation, about what happened, and, and I was openly worried about what was going to happen here, I mean, what we're going to be able to do from here on out. But I know that all I need to do is to keep my faith and allow myself to let it go, because whatever God has in store for me, whatever his plan is, I just have to live it, and I just need to do everything I can to give the glory up to him. So I wanted to share that story with you guys, and I just want to show you the meme again one more time. I made this. I tried to make the image as close to what it looked like to me as possible. I also went through every image on Google Images trying to find this meme, to find what I saw, and there was nothing even close to it. So as the best I can tell, this doesn't exist on the internet, and the only place it existed was in that conversation between Red Pill Girlfriend and I. And so I knew that I had to tell you guys about it tonight, because, this is definitely the kind of thing that I feel we should share. I had somebody else message me this week and tell me that they've lost their job, they are about to lose their house, and they have lost total faith in everything because of what's happening here in the country today. And I know that there are so many people out there right now who are suffering in the same way. And my message to you is that you can't give up. You can't let them beat you down. There are people out there. There are resources out there. We have us, okay? Reach out to people in this community. Do not sit there and suffer in silence, and do not let them destroy you, because that's what they want. They want to beat us down, and they want to destroy us. They want to kill us, essentially, in so many ways, in whatever way they can. We cannot allow that to happen, okay? So please, if there is anybody out there who is in a situation like that, just don't do it alone, okay? Don't allow yourself to be pushed into a corner and for these people to win. We're all here for each other, and we got to stay here for each other. But most importantly, God is going to take care of us. If something changes in our lives, it's just a temporary thing, okay? It's what needed to happen. Whatever the plan is, and we're not privy to the plan, but whatever the plan is, We have to allow it to happen. And sometimes there is going to be painful things that happen. Sometimes we're going to go through changes that we don't like. But we have to grow as people, and we have to grow spiritually. And the only way that we can do that is to accept it. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And I hope that if there is anybody out there who has been feeling like I've been feeling, or is feeling like this person that messaged me has been feeling, that maybe this just gives you a little bit of hope and lets you know that it's not over, and we can't let it be.
Right. Well, first off, I want to say, Red Pill, I'll speak for everybody here. I know everybody can agree. Thank you for sharing that story. Like that, well, not even a story, what happened. Because I know when you told me earlier today, I haven't seen you wake up and be energetic that quick in a message. And you just said, man, I got to tell you guys about what happened. And you told us, and I had chills during it, because I mean, I've grown up and had experiences that are similar to that. I grew up, being a preacher's kid, hearing a lot of stories about that, or witnessing it happen for people. And we do see a lot, don't we? A lot of people going through struggle. They reach out and talk to us about it. And the best thing that we can tell them is to walk in faith, just in general, not faith in necessarily, of course, believe in your president, all that, but not faith in our favorite non, all that stuff, faith in God. And once again, I know that a lot of people in this movement don't, there are people in this movement that just don't believe in God. You have a different religious basis, or you're not even religious at all. We love you all the same. But speaking to the people that follow, Christianity and the God that we follow, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this chat. We could do a full-blown call-in show of people telling similar stories, and we would not have enough time, because God speaks to us in these ways. Certain things happen. I had things go on in my life, man, and I'd say like 2015, that when this movement started, was giving me chills on how many different things that happened. And I'm not going to, try to one up your story, or there's other times and places for that. But there's those moments that happen when you're walking through the wilderness, you're walking through the darkness, and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know where it's going to happen. You do this show out of the goodness of your heart. This is the most genuine person. I'll tell the chat, this is the most genuine person I've met through all of this. And that's not discounting anybody. But
thank you. To
know that you're trying to do this in for the right reasons, to help people, you feel led to do these kind of things, but not knowing where your future is going because of having an obstacle thrown in your way. And now having, you're in this part where you're like, all right, God, this is my seventh trouble. I need to put it on your shoulders here, and I'm going to walk in faith. And having that moment, we could sit here and split hairs on how that could be this or could be that. If you felt it, that's from God, man. That's in between you and him. We thank you for sharing it, but understand that God does have a hand over you. And sometimes you have to go through tests of faith to get there. It builds it even stronger. So let's just say that the miracle that we already know is going to happen, because we're all praying for it for you. When that happens, it's going to help solidify and make you even stronger. And that's kind of why we try our best to show the positivity and energy we have in this movement, because we have in our own ways been blessed in many different ways. And now we want that for everybody else. We don't want to see people struggling, going through hard things. Like the person mentioning earlier about losing their brother, it's tragic. We hear these things all the time because of how big this movement is. But we love everybody all the same, and we want to just be there and like digitally hug them and say it's going to be okay. But anytime those things, hold on to it, build on it. Red Pill, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everybody here loves you. We support what you're doing. I wouldn't be over here doing this with your channel if I didn't believe in you or trust you or any of that. You're my brother. So I'm very excited that happened, because you're going to be able to build on that and move forward, man. And I just see you're just going to keep going, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it is. It will be 100%, and I know it will be. Somebody, I think it was ZooU in the chat, said super chat is down. Buddy, they took monetization from my channel this week, so nobody can super chat. But the mods are throwing the Cash App, and I just want to say, if anybody wants to use Cash App, you get $5 for signing up, and then I get $5 when you go through that link to sign up. Adrian said, before I heard your story, I had an urge to help out. Hearing your story just kind of made it a must. Oh, keep up the great work. Thank you so much. I can't, it's very generous. That's very, very generous. Thank you so much. Sheila, also thank you to Sheila. And Dale says, I visited Craig Mason live the other day. I told him you guys sent me. I'm not sure that he believed me. I will have to keep pestering. I'm sure Craig believed you. He knows we're all friends. I'm a patron of Craig's too, so he knows.
we love Craig. He's definitely great. We'll definitely have to have him on the show again. And I Little Birdie told me next week on Wednesday he's going to be doing the show with 412 on his show.
Yeah, he's definitely coming back on Comfy Sunday, and then he's going to be coming back for a full 2 hours on one of the weekend shows too. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a Craig Mason weekend. We can have him on all 3 nights.
He's such a good conversation, man, and there's a lot of that too. That's why I personally enjoy planning out these shows with you, because we know what's going to happen. Like it's a little secret that we're like, oh yeah, we're going to have such a good conversation with this person, that person. But yeah, it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, awesome. The athlete-centered coach Bill Patton asked, you came in late. What's going on? Basically, I had a message from God last night, and I had to share it with the audience. So, excuse me, I'm not going to go ahead and tell it again, but yeah, go ahead and rewind it if you want to, or you can wait till after the show so that you're here with us live, and then you can go check it out. Basically, God let me know that everything's going to be okay, which is exactly what I needed to hear. Rick, thank you for that. Sandra and Anita and Sheila as well, and Ben, thank you very much, Ben. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much to everybody. So, you know, and one of the things that's been so horrible about just everything that's happening is it's difficult for people to look at the state of this country and see everything they've done to tear it down so recently, and tell themselves that they believe everything is going to be okay. You know, I saw someone in the chat say that they're having trouble sleeping as a result of what's going on. You know, and that's normal, that's natural. But at the same time, you have to continue forward and know that despite what it looks like right now, everything is going to be okay. We're going to break through this, you know, and the very fact that right now, you know, they're sending the National Guard home, that people are running out of steam, they can't keep up with these protests. I mean, I think it's going to be a very short amount of time before all these people are right back home and they're, you know, standing around picketing in their own neighborhoods. And then we're going to have to go about the process of rebuilding America. President Trump just signed an executive order today that was having to do with infrastructure projects. You know, that's for like roads and bridges and stuff. I mean, that's going to put people to work, people who are unable to find a job in one way. The government is now going to be hiring people. You know, think about the Civilian Conservation Corps way back in the early part of the 20th century. You know, they found as many different possible projects that they could to get people back to work. And I know that that's what President Trump wants. We need people to work, not only just so that they can survive, but, you know, having a purpose. It gives you a good mental state, you know? I mean, like, if you don't have something to do and you're just forced to sit around like what we've been forced to do over the last couple of months, it puts you in a bad spot, and everything looks worse than it actually is. But this is exactly what their plan was. They wanted to demoralize the nation. They wanted to keep everybody locked up so you would have like pent up energy, and then they took that and they weaponized it against us. And they took these people, they put them out on the streets, and they used the American citizens to destroy their own country. It's absolutely incredible to see what's happened, and not in a good way. So
no, I can totally agree with you on that. And just first off, a couple people just in a row in the chat said stronger together. Chris DeLisa, friend from Twitter, said we'll get through this, in it together. That's the point of this, right? I mean, yeah, we are breaking information down and trying to hold people accountable, you know, make noise about that stuff. But it's been a big part of this is the community that's been built. None of us were taught, most of us, I'd even say close to 99% didn't even know any of us existed.
Yeah.
before this all started, and now here we are. We're reaching out and praying for people that are going through things that we don't even necessarily know where they are in the world, but they are our family.
Yeah,
it's being built like that. So, and also in turn, like, I felt comfortable. This weekend seemed crazy. Our favorite Anon was hinting at things kind of being in a certain direction. It was very, we didn't know how it was going to play out. I mean, they were putting an extra wall around the White House with claims of 1 million people going there. And I'm not saying I wasn't distraught. I wasn't depressed. I just flat out needed some time just to kind of re-energize. I got to practice what we preach here, right? We talk about it all the time. I got to make sure I do it. And I did not once think, oh man, I need to be working for the sake of the movement because they can handle it. I absolutely have faith that if I have to take some time to just kind of just recalibrate, do something else, that it'll get handled. And the information, anything breaks, will be spread and covered well. There's a lot of people in this movement I look up to. I'm not even going to start naming because I'll leave somebody out and then I'll hear it. But yeah, this has been a very dark time. Watching this stuff in videos and stuff, which was the intention, right? To have all this stuff filmed and then shown on everybody's phones and in their houses. It's a car wreck you can't look away from. And it's your country that we've been fighting for burning and looted and destroyed. It's very tragic. It's very hard to see. But in turn, I've been very impressed with everybody fighting and calling things out. And just really, really, making sure that if certain things were done wrong or a image was shown of somebody who was doing the looting or attacked someone, they were doing digging and figuring out who it was. And it ends up you seeing like the local PDs and, other investigations going on, thanking the community for, figuring out who this person is. That to me is what we need to be doing as a whole, outside of an end game of arrest and, holding people's feet to the fire. This is the world that I want to live in. This is the world that I didn't see before. And that's why I kept as an outcast. And I see a lot of people in the movement talked about it, that we were our own, like we were we made sure that we kept to ourselves in this world, a lot of us, because we didn't like where things were going. So we see all these things going on now, and it's like that to 11. But now we have a community we can lean on and talk about it with, and we don't feel so alone. That a lot of us, especially me, I kept to myself a lot. And now I feel a part of something bigger than I could have ever expected. I do believe it's going to get better. I'm not going to sit here and try to do the hope prawn, I'm now watching my words so hard.
Hope prawn totally works.
Yeah, hope prawn. No, the Cheggets, they're very brilliant people. But I believe it. I still to this moment believe it. And it's not going to take a drop from our favorite Anon to convince me further. God, just like your meme that was sent to your phone that we can all agree, a mass majority will agree that it was a sign to you to, keep the faith. That's what we need to live in. I don't want to waste time in fear. I really don't. I don't want to waste time stressing, what's going to happen here, what's going to happen that. They should be doing this, all that. That's faith in man. And I try not to do that too much, because then that gives away your controls, right? Right. And I want to have control in that. And the best way is to have that one-way relationship, at least for me, with God. And that's what keeps me calmer. And if I've got to take breaks, it'll be fine, man. We got a lot of good hands holding on to what's going on here. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Listen, Dragon Energy 45 in the chat said, we just found out my mom has multiple myeloma. Not sure about any of the details yet, but if I could get prayers for her, that would be great. So I just want to ask everybody to pray for Dragon Energy 45's mother, and that they heal her of the cancer. Now, I would also say that there are a lot of various alternative treatments that you can use that would supplement whatever they're going to give you at the doctor's office. And I highly suggest that you look into those things. That by talking about that specifically, that's one of those hot button issues here on the platform. But if you send me an email, I can suggest quite a few things to you, because I used to help people with this very, very thing. So, I mean, to your point earlier about, people using digging skills to maybe locate people who have caused mayhem and destruction. That's actually, been a huge source of satisfaction for me. Like there was, the guy laying in the street where the kid came and, just, whomped him in the head. That kid got found. Most importantly, the murderer of St. Louis police captain David Dorn has been arrested. He's a 24-year-old man named Stephen Cannon. And what really angers me about this is that this all started with the death of a man who didn't, or the narrative of a death of a man. And unfortunately, nobody can bring that back. But 17 people have died now. 17. I wonder if it's going to cap at that. But Police Captain David Dorn, he was a 77-year-old man. Okay? And he's an African-American man. And for this guy to be murdered and for it just to be completely swept under the rug by the mainstream media is abhorrent. Okay, if the life of George Floyd was so valuable, then I don't see why the life of David Dorn isn't just as valuable. In my eyes, every human life has value, the equal amount of value. I don't care who you are, what you've done. God made you. God put you here for a purpose, and no one should die at the hands of another person. And in the manner in which this man had to pass away in the midst of all this chaos, how horrible for him, how horrible for his family. And he's not going to get the same level of justice that George Floyd is going to get. I don't know that anybody started a GoFundMe for Officer David Dorn and his family. But this is something that I've been waiting for them to discover the perpetrator of, because this man did not deserve it. He was just a guy out on the street at the wrong time of day, and some looters went ahead and took his life from him. All lives matter. That is the truth. Every single life on the face of this earth has value, and it matters. And, I don't... I hope that somebody doesn't take me saying that and twist it to mean something it doesn't. I mean, people have taken that, and they have turned it into something awful. Okay, you can't say that. You say that to some people, and you're going to end up like Officer Dorn. But the truth is that everybody has value, and we should not be holding anyone above another person. So I'm glad that they caught this guy. For the people of St. Louis, for his family, they deserve justice. So, Kim61 Believer, slow mode is on, so you can only send a message once every 90 seconds, and that's because we've got almost 3,500 people here. If it wasn't on, then basically the chat would be going so fast, no one could read it, no one could communicate. And this is one of the most important aspects of doing the live streams, is because it lets you guys and Methods and I communicate with you so we can see the chat. Now, guys, I don't know if the chat is working for you now. Obviously, it works for me here on the screen, but I would like to know if they would, if they're allowing it to work properly on your computer. I do need to say thank you to Jean, thank you to Marianne, thank you to, Jean, Marianne, thank you to Renee, thank you to Jonathan, and thank you to Son of a Green Card. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Appreciate y'all.
And absolutely, to that point, I don't want to then, like, not weaponize is the wrong word, but take David Dorn's life and use it to make a point that they're, you get what I'm saying. Like, there needs to be the honor and the respect, because like you said, and I have no problem saying it, all lives matter, because they should. I don't care where you are, what color you are, your background and all that stuff. Your life matters. Now, if you make decisions in life take you in certain directions when it comes to crime and punishment, okay, so be it. That's what we have set up in this world. But the idea, it's right. Like, I saw live streams of people even asking, BLM, why not about him? And they would just not talk about it. It's like, okay, well, that's not what we're going for. it's that fluoride stare, cognitive dissonance. Like they don't want to accept it, or it doesn't even click. They're so focused on. And I'm not just talking about, and I'm not really talking about the people that are organizing these things. And obviously there might be some agendas behind it and maybe some finances behind it. But as far as people that are out there genuinely joining these things because they believe in being a part of it, it's kind of hard to have it click in their head and go against the crowd that they've just been protesting with for hours, to then say, oh, wait, why are we not doing it for this guy? But people can wake up like that. And so bringing it up is a good thing, but obviously it's just tragic. But we kind of could have expected some of these things to happen as these things started like ramping up. And it's just so sad. But in turn, history will remember them because we won't let it forget.
Someone in the chat too said that it's more than just wrong place at the wrong time. This man was trying to help his friend. He was guarding the store. And apparently that's why they decided to come after him. Hold on just a second. My mother sent me a text. And, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. My mom just found what looks like the meme that I had seen last night. That is incredible. That's not exactly it, Mom, but that is close. Wow. All right. Well, I need to watch that video.
It was probably like your mom's favorite research that she's doing right now is that for her son. Shout out to your mom for that. She's great. But yeah, I mean, we're going to keep going in everything that's going to happen. We're going to hopefully, we know that they're going to try to do the second wave thing and cause some problems with that, but they can't get away with that narrative of having tens of thousands of people shoulder to shoulder. Mm-hmm. Mask on or not, and not allow people to go back to work. I think that there's going to be like a counter to this that's not obviously going to be as violent, but it is going to be something that they're not going to have it when there's all this footage of people being side by side and those same governors, those same mayors, those same leaders, quote unquote leaders, were supporting it. There's going to be such a narrative argument. And I don't see Patriots standing up allowing it to happen. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we will, because I want to see people get back to their lives, dude. I really, really do.
All right. And my mom said somebody in the chat mentioned it. So thank you very much. This is the Santos Bonacci channel. I believe he subscribed to me because I remember seeing that like early when I first started. There was something from the posts yesterday that I wanted to bring up. And that was the infamous Obama.org post on Twitter. Now, people took it to mean that this Twitter account for Obama.org had put out a tweet with Mr. Floyd's image prior to the event that took his life. But that's not it. What it was, initially, I thought that it was a dynamic image. I thought that it had auto-updated. But our favorite Anon later confirmed that that's not what it was. But he gave us the code to show how they were able to update it. And some other sleuths on Twitter actually were able to break it down. So I wanted to go over that tweet with you, because this is also something that people that are against this movement are using to say, oh, your man was wrong, but he wasn't wrong. And he also said that not all posts are for Anons. So I believe that he posted it as kind of, a goad to the people who changed it so that they would know how he that he's onto him. So let me show you this tweet from Hive. So it says, simple explanation of the Obama Foundation having a George Floyd thumbnail. Code included from another Anon, Ruby-based, but this can be done with HTML, JavaScript, C++. And here is the meme. So right here, this is the actual code for this image, and it shows that it was modified on Sunday, May 31st, and this originally was posted on May 17th. Now, at the time that it was posted, it was a different image. It was Obama, I believe, giving a commencement speech. But he says we've got the source code modified there. Updating source code image updates universally. Then what posts people see on May 17th. Yeah, and then current posting date, updated image from the website. So multiple posts all updated to this same image right there. But somebody went in and did it manually. There's another one that actually goes into, here we go, from One Anon. We're going to give them a follow. I forgot to do that. So this is Ruby code, and conveniently my husband is a Ruby developer, so here's what we've deduced. And this is the code right there that our favorite Anon threw in the post after it. This Anon is trying to call Q out. Well, so this is what an Anon said. You really need to walk that last one back. The same reason a thumbnail of a gray clapboard shows up on a YouTube video when it's deleted. The thumbnail is current, but the content is old. You really need to retract that. And then our favorite Anon provides the code. And then the poster here, One Anon, says, this Anon is trying to call him out for saying the image was added before GF died. And then our favorite Anon responds with the very code that someone would use to update the image, included with the link to say, yes, I'm well aware because trolling is fun. This also implies that the meaning of that post is not what this Anon thinks. It's something else. Perhaps that is what is meant by the next post, which says not all posts are meant for Anons. So the image was created on the 31st, and this is what that image was originally from the Wayback Machine. Contrary to popular belief, preview images don't automatically update on old tweets. And basically, our favorite Anon is trolling this person, attempting to call him out. And let me see, they say maybe reconcile is about the commencement speech or the watch parties referenced in that tweet or something else. I think it's time we start looking beyond this. And they continue, this code automatically forces Twitter to change the preview image for all old tweets containing this link. That's the beauty of code. And then qmap.pub is the posts, obviously, but the person who owns QMAP is the one who's making those titles. So this is actually something that's come up with those titles in the past. People have jumped at the, the wording in those titles to say, well, that's wrong. So because that's wrong, all the posts are wrong. But that's not what it is. It's just a person not affiliated with this team. They are just aggregating all those posts, putting them together, and then they make up a title right there. And I would imagine they don't spend a lot of time thinking about the title. They probably just get the idea, they make the title, they update it.
Right. Yeah. I've had people send me like maps that are, or graphics, whatever you call them, and you can see a lot of work put into it. Mm-hmm. Don't know if they made it or not, but they want me to take a look at it. And I'm like, oh, you're decoding the title, and I feel bad. It's because that's not a part. Maybe they weren't aware. I don't know, but that's the beauty of it, like seeing people do that kind of work. Because that's what I did at the beginning. I might joke around and pick on our buddy TikTok for making, what we call spaghetti graphics and stuff. But I used to make them all the time. I could see the joy in it. I just have other things that I work on now. Just real quick, though, Patricia Serdal, I'll just say Patricia, in the chat says, Method's glad you relaxed this weekend. Red Pill 78 hit it out of the park all weekend. I caught your Friday. Mm-hmm. No, it was a fantastic conversation. I caught a little bit of last night. But yeah, no, that's what I was hearing from a bunch of people. You had a great shows the past few days.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a good time. I hope you guys enjoyed the shows. Definitely. I do a lot to make sure that it's quality content. And, Dr. Sala last night, it was not a show that everybody's going to agree with, but honestly, that's the beauty of having a platform like this. I want everybody to talk about stuff. I am sitting back and looking at the world, and I see how compartmentalized everyone is. People are unable to have conversations about things that they might disagree on, and I think that discourse like that is healthy. So, definitely, I hope that even if you don't agree with the person presenting the information, that you can still look at, the presentation and find value in challenging them or challenging yourself. That's what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, no, that's the thing too, because we all have our different things that we're into. Some people know what I'm into, what I'm not into. I try not to dog it, let people do their thing. But certain situations happen, like people know I'm not that big into aliens, but if they fake the invasion, like what we have to still check off on the bingo card of FFs, I'm obviously going to want to watch those videos to see what they have to say about it. So to me, it's a time and place type thing. But yeah, always check out stuff if you got the time. If you're looking for things and you hear about something you haven't researched before, take the time, watch some videos, take it with a grain of salt. You don't know who's making the videos or if they were, if there's new information that might change it. But, it's always good to kind of adapt and do that. I've been trying to do that more lately, but, old dog, new tricks type thing.
I also had another tweet that I wanted to show you guys. This is from my buddy Carol Quigley. So check this out. This is cool. I just saw this earlier today and wanted to bring it up. He says, this is one of those holy SHIT things you find while digging. The owner of the club that Floyd worked for was Maya Santa Maria. Her mother attended the University of Hawaii at the same time as Barry's mother and in the same department. Was this a family favor that was done? How about that? Hawaii is not a big state, and we have a lot of people here in the United States. What are the chances that the owner of the club where this man worked would have a mother who attended the same time and in the same department as a former president of the United States? Very slim. Infinitesimal, very, very slim chances right there.
I would really like to see more, not to call it out, I'd like to see some more sauce on that. Was there more embedded in that tweet?
Oh, definitely.
That went into it? Because I only saw that in passing when we were getting ready for the show. I was going to look into it later, and I'd hate to say something like that live.
No, don't worry. I'm going to go through it. So the person who put the information out initially is named E.C. Everett. Let me go back to the tweet. So... go back up here. Well, it's a long thread, man. And, there are other things too. There's connection to Keith Ellison. We're not going to go into that, but actually here, George got help from our Turning Point. And there is Keith Ellison receiving some type of honorary award from Turning Point USA, or not Turning Point USA, our Turning Point. So here is the sauce on the information. So this is the mother, former professor at University of Dubuque, studied cultural anthropology at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And let's see, started in 1965. And then right here, Ann Dunham, she obtained her Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology. She obtained it in 1967, so that would mean that they were there for 2 years together. Either way, they would have been in the same program for 2 years. And Ann Dunham, of course, is the mother of Barry. So just kind of an interesting coincidence, I mean, the reason I think it's even worth talking about is because although it seems like it could mean nothing, it also could possibly mean something else. I mean, the amount of people that are all like tied by one string to this event is kind of crazy. I don't have anyone approaching John Brennan or Andy McCabe and the parents of Barack Obama in my life. Those people are not anywhere near where I'm at. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And Glenn Hesketh in the chat said this, and that's one of the first things I asked myself. He said, who was the person who recorded the video of Floyd? Yeah, right. I mean, we have to question it all the way that far.
Yeah,
for sure, because we don't know. Neon Revolt did a great video on this over on his YouTube channel. If you guys aren't checking, he's doing podcasts now. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely, it's just Neon Revolt. Can't miss his logo if you guys have seen him around. But yeah, I spent this weekend to kind of just change this up. Not really change it, but I'll connect it. Since I was taking some time this weekend, I was doing some other things. I was listening and kind of half watching the Weatherman series from our buddy iPod. And
Good.
just to, oh yeah, absolutely, it blows my mind. Like I was supposed to be working on things at times. I just find myself just staring at a TV like a 5-year-old who walks by. And I was seeing all the connections that were being made. And you think about the small world, because he would say a name and we would recognize that name, and we can make the connections in our head. And just to watch how small world this is. So the fact that you just showed that, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, and most of us wouldn't be, even though there's like that wow moment. You step back and you're like, well, okay, that makes sense for it to be that, you know, small knit group working on things.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, there's also another interesting bit of news that I think you guys are going to be interested to find out. Breaking news from the Mirror in UK. The U.S. has demanded that the UK hand over Prince Andrew to appear in court over his links to the mysterious deceased billionaire Jeffrey.
Right, yeah, I saw that headline from The Sun, and I was like, I'm going to look for another source. So at least we have two on that. By all means, he needs to be questioned, because he's obviously, if he can't do a controlled interview without sweating, talking about not being able to sweat, then, you know, put him in front of some actual investigators. And he seems like the kind of guy that would break. That's just, you know, that's just me. But yeah, just real quick, I want to say this, because I know we're getting pretty close to bringing our guest on. I see about 4,000 people here hanging out with us. We really appreciate you guys being here. Really love doing this show, and I'm glad that you guys take the time to spend time with us and hang out. 1.9 thousand likes. If you guys don't mind clicking the thumbs up if you haven't. Really helps us share this out. We got another hour. If you guys don't mind just, you know, putting it out there, let people know about it. Be really cool. And thank you guys really for hitting us up on PayPal and all that stuff. And I mean, especially hitting up Red Pill on it, you know, the super chat thing being on it. It's kind of weird not being able to read those, but it's also giving us time to read through the chat even more. So some of the best conversations I see happens in this YouTube chat, specifically on your channel, man. It's really, really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I somebody in the chat said that this will never happen. They'll never hand him over. Well, the Department of Justice has made a formal mutual legal assistance request to the Home Office and bypassed Buckingham Palace. So they've gone outside of the traditional route that they would normally go through. Now, the MLA, the Mutual Legal Assistance, allows cooperation between our two countries, U.S. and the U.K., when evidence needs to be gathered in a prosecution or investigation of criminal offenses. If it's approved by the Home Office, the FBI could ask Prince Andrew to be compelled to go to a British court to give evidence under oath as a witness if he refuses to cooperate. So I actually think that it's a possibility that this would, at the very least, require Prince Andrew to be questioned under oath in a British court. Now, whether or not they force him out of the country and allow the feds to bring him to New York City, it's another thing altogether. But if they are to deny that MLA to the United States, that would cause quite a big diplomatic row between the two countries. And you got to admit that our ability to do certain things is dependent on that cooperation between the two countries. I mean, the Brits obliged the United States to gather up Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sorry, wrong name, to Julian Assange, and now the United States is asking them to do the same thing all over again. So I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see on this, but I think that this has the possibility to be a really big deal, most definitely.
I totally agree with that. And I know that we're about to bring Deanna on, but I also wanted to mention that we had the Attorney General was on, what was it, Face the Nation this morning? And there's been this argument by the media that our president cannot use the military if the governors are against it. He doesn't have that unilateral, you know, like legal way to do that. And so whoever, I don't remember the names of all these pundits, but it's just one of those ones that you just don't like to listen to, was asking AG Barr about this. And you could see how she was spinning it. I have it on my Twitter. All you guys, M to Madness, you guys can go check it out. And she was trying to like phrase it in such a way that like, can Trump really go that far that sounds like a dictator type thing. If the governors are against it, and AG Barr and just his demeanor is great, because he's essentially saying, yeah, he's got it. It's been done before. And sometimes the government doesn't listen to local, the local government stuff, like the governors, when they want things a certain way. But there's a reason why the president wants to do it this way. He has that authority. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But he also made the point to say it is an absolute last resort thing that they want to do. And that Barr said they were all in agreement on that, but they're willing. Yeah. So, let them, that's coming from the attorney general, the one that would be helping back him up on that. So just don't let the narrative change. Like I said, go grab that clip, go find it yourself, share it. But anybody who tells you that, you could show them the attorney general just doesn't agree with you.
Absolutely.
If you're saying that.
I love it that Barr has President Trump's back. I mean, that's exactly what we need. If this country is going to move forward in the right direction, we have to have a strong Justice Department who backs up the president and what he wants to do. I just need to say thank you to Dens. Thank you to Sherry, thank you to Jean, and thank you to Marianne. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for that. All right, well, listen, we're going to be bringing Deanna Lorraine onto the line here, guys, and I hope that if you have questions for her, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll try to get in as many as we can. And, once again, if you haven't liked or shared yet, please consider doing that. We're going to go ahead and try to get as many people here as possible. Just over 4,100 souls in the room. Let's go ahead and say hello to Deanna Lorraine. All right. Oh, hey. Deanna, go ahead and mute. How are you? I can hear you fine. Yeah. How are you?
Okay, perfect. I'm great. How about you?
Doing well.
Okay, cool.
Doing well. I don't know if you were listening there for the whole time, but, we're having a nice little chat about everything that's been going on. Just first of all, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. I know that around the time of the election, I was trying to get you on the show at that time, and we were unable to do it. So I'm glad that it's finally happened.
Yes, me too. And also, just as a free warning before I turn my camera on, so you're prepared, the sunset is literally like the place where the sun is literally right over my head, and I have a big skylight above my head.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You're like an angel.
Yes. No, right in my eyes for like maybe 10 minutes, and then it should cease after that. So.
Okay. No problem. No problem. All right. Well, Deanna, just for anybody here who may not know who you are, and I think that's probably very few people, but please give us an introduction to you.
Sure. Can you see me now?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, cool. So my name is Deanna Lorraine, and I'm a political commentator, very avid, fierce patriot, an author, and I just completed my race against Nancy Pelosi. I was running for Congress against Nancy Pelosi, excuse me, in California's 12th district. Shall I say California's 12th district. And I completed that, and so now I'm writing my book, my second book actually, to talk about my experiences running against Nancy Pelosi and fighting the deep state. And I also I'm just a very fierce culture and political warrior. I'm always on the front lines, and I just feel it's my duty. I feel like God is calling so many people to be a part of his army right now, because we are absolutely at war. And I know that I'm being called to fight this war and to help lead this war to victory. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. Right
on. What's the title of your first book?
My first book is Making Love Great Again. No, it's not a how-to book on sex or making love. It's actually quite the opposite. It is about how radical feminism and liberalism have destroyed our relationships, our connections, our family unit, and our culture. And it traces all the roots of Marxism and how, the different groups like feminism and progressivism, different events like the sexual revolution and the gay rights and things like that, how they've all affected really our culture and our relationships and our family unit, and how if we truly want to make America great again, we also really have to make our culture great again. And it starts with ending a lot of these liberal ideologies and practices and replacing them with good old conservative traditional values and practices.
Right. Well, Deanna, I found this. Would the Amazon link be the best link to share for that book? Because I've already got people in the chat asking about where they can find it.
Sure. It's called, Making Love Great Again. It would be the Amazon link.
I found it for you. I'm going to be dropping that now in the chat for all of you guys. So just be on the lookout for that.
And the cover is, if you can believe it or not, it's the black and white photo of that famous kiss on V-Day.
Yeah.
With and the nurse. That's always been one of my favorite pictures because it really epitomizes how great things used to be. It was when men were men, women were women, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there was nothing wrong with romance. There was so much, the economy, was booming. We were all patriotic. That picture really sums up the good old days, I think, in America that I wish I was around for. And the funniest thing is that picture that's on my book cover, feminists get so triggered over the book cover. And they're like, you're a misogynist. You've got sexual harassment, right? Your book cover is sexual assault. I'm like, so that's exactly what's wrong with our culture is you literally think my book cover is sexual assault. And I see it totally different.
Yeah, if you get past the book cover and read it, you might understand where you're coming from. But people get triggered at just the cover on things like that, just how things are displayed in general. And to your point, real quick, Deanna, about speaking your mind and stuff and using Twitter especially to say the things and fight for the president and lead this charge and stuff, like, I'm sure a lot of people see that it motivates them to do so, because as I was starting to do that more, and I know others can agree with that, there's some people reach out and be like, I wasn't sure, I just wanted to lurk. I didn't want to necessarily talk and stuff. And I'll keep an eye on a few of them. And then like months later, they're out there just going at it. And they're like, I'm on my 5th account. They've already taken me down. I don't care. I'm still fighting for MAGA. And we need to do that. We need to speak our minds. We need to stand up because they're obviously going to do it, even if it's for things that are morally, wrong and stuff, like attacking you over that book. We need to be the voice in general, and not just me, you, Red Pill, or anybody else that we, connect with. We all do. And that's a beautiful thing to see. So I commend you for doing that, Deanna, because anytime I read your tweets, I'm just like, I want to like high five you at times because I'm like, yep, she went there and that needed to happen.
Thank you. I'm glad you want to high five me and not kill me like some.
Right.
Never. So have you always been political? I mean, how did you get involved in the culture war?
So I haven't always been political actually at all. But before this, before really politics, I had a coaching practice. So it was a personal development coaching and relationship coaching actually. So I was, involved in people's relationships and involved with helping them grow their personal development. I worked with a lot of beta males, boys that grew up without fathers, and how that affected them and everything. So that was my world before, and I did really well with it. I had a YouTube channel that was really popular. I spoke at a lot of events, and I was on the media. But then, I started getting really frustrated with the way things were going in our country, under Hussein's leadership. I was just like, oh my God, this guy is sending our country off a cliff. It was just everything he was doing. I was like, how could this guy be this much of an idiot? And then I realized that he wasn't that much of an idiot. He was actually following a very well-crafted plan to intentionally destroy America. And it was around the same time that I realized too, with my clients and with myself, like there's something really wrong with our culture, really wrong. And boys are being told not to be men, but yet we're seeing such a lack of masculinity in the world, a lack of really essential, healthy masculinity. And women are being told a lie that, they're supposed to trade out having a husband so that they can be a slave to work and have a career. And they're being told that men are the enemy. And I was just seeing also in my practice with people how that was affecting how our culture and how these ideals were really affecting men and women and couples and the family unit. I was working personally. So that's what started sending me down a rabbit hole, many rabbit holes, and I started really understanding the plan and the agenda of Marxism and the cultural Marxist revolution that they're trying to usher in. It got me down the rabbit hole of understanding the deep state and what's really going on behind the scenes that we're not being told. And I put everything together, and that's what got me to write my book, because I was just so frustrated and angry after realizing everything and researching everything, that I felt like I had to channel that anger and frustration into a book, into something positive that would teach people and red pill people. Otherwise, I would just want to jump off a bridge. After you don't channel what it can be very depressing knowing the way the world really works. So I said, well, I'm going to red pill other people. I'm going to wake people up. So I started shifting actually in my YouTube channel and in my talks and social media towards more political. I started really calling out feminism for what it is and how dangerous it is. I started calling out the left for the destruction that they're causing. And I lost about half of my YouTube subscribers at that point, and
ouch,
a lot of my business. But it was worth it to me. I mean, there was a time where I really sacrificed so much of my income because, people are so political, and they were saying, hey, if you ever want to have a business again, you're committing financial suicide right now by talking about politics. But to me, I'm a solutions person, and if I see things that are wrong and problems, I want to address the root of those problems instead of just, being politically correct and not, what kind of a person, what kind of a coach would I be if I wasn't actually addressing the root of the problems? So that's what got me more of the political direction. And my book is really, the Making Love Great Again book is really the bridge between kind of my previous career and how I got political. And then, it launched me into the political spectrum. I started going on the news again and giving talks again, but this time more about our political and culture situation, the political and culture war that we found ourselves in, and became a very outspoken anti-feminist. And from there, then I decided to run for Congress to really see if I can make changes on the other side, and be a voice for these issues, and the real issues that are really affecting Americans instead of the issues that most of the establishment politicians pretend are affecting us.
Well, I mean, it was quite the pivot. How did you actually decide to run as a Republican in California? I mean, it's dangerous, first of all, but then running against Nancy Pelosi, I mean, imagine you're looking out for the hit squad every day.
So true. Target on my back, that's for sure. I just felt like I wanted to run for Congress because 2020 is such an important year. I mean, it's probably the most important year in our history, because it's going to determine truly whether our country becomes a country again that's for the people, and that where we have true freedom, or we go further in a decline, and this 16-year plan that Obama started is going to come to fruition, right? So it's such an important year. And I just started realizing, President Trump needs help in office. I mean, he's fantastic, but there's so many traitors all around him. He's surrounded by traitors and socialists and rhinos. He needs real patriots in office who are going to have his back and help him implement the America First agenda that we all voted on, and really be fierce in defending him instead of being a wussy about it like so many of these other Republicans that we're seeing. So that just decided to run for Congress, throw my hat in the ring, and do it. And then as far as Nancy Pelosi goes, I'm kind of someone who is go big or go home kind of gal. If I'm going to run for Congress, I wanted to tackle the head of the snake. And Nancy Pelosi is the embodiment of everything that's wrong in America, of everything that the left is doing to destroy America. She is the ringleader of that in so many ways. And the district, San Francisco, is also like a case study of everything, of failed Democrat policies. Look at it now. And Nancy Pelosi and the left, they want to turn the rest of the country into the worst parts of San Francisco. If they had if they had their time, that's what they would do. So I wanted to just go to the head of the snake. I wanted to go to Nancy herself, take my issues right to her front door, in San Francisco and see what kind of a difference I could make there.
That's fantastic for sure. And just somebody in the chat, We Must Win 2020 said this election is not just an election. Totally agree. And just like what you were saying, this is essentially the battle in between the direction of good and the direction of evil, where things are going. And it's so blatant now. And I'm glad that you saw it. And that's why you wanted to make a difference going after. Because, I mean, running for, like he was saying, running for Congress is one thing. You went straight after the number 3 in line for president right now with no shame. And I'm sure that you have a lot of interesting stories that you could tell that are obviously going to be in your book. So we're not going to ask you to give too much away or anything like that. But can you give like an overall, like something about that? Because the book's, it's going to be what, out next month, maybe?
Yeah, so I'm writing my second book because it's kind of my lot in life. I'm sort of a sharer, when I have experiences, I think it's important to share and share truths and try to wake people up. So my next book is At War with America, What I Learned Fighting Nancy Pelosi and the Deep State. And that book will be out July 7th, 7/7. But as soon as this final stage is done, which will be this week, I'm going to massively start promoting it. So I will definitely let you guys know, and you guys can help me as well start promoting. It's going to be a fantastic book of all the good, bad, and the ugly and the dirty secrets of what I went through, at least, fighting Nancy Pelosi and the deep state and what really happened behind the scenes. And one thing that's interesting is I fully expected that I was going to get totally attacked by Nancy Pelosi and the left. That's what I went in expecting. But what I was not expecting is that I would spend a lot of my time fighting the rhinos on the right. And I actually had one other Republican running in my race as well. He is total stereotypical of the old guard, old establishment type, rhino type of Republican. And this was his 4th time also running against Nancy Pelosi. But I apparently intimidated him so much, he hated the fact that I was also running too. And he spent all of his campaign attacking me, smearing me, slandering me, making up all sorts of crazy things about me, and just trying his best to get me out of the race. And some of the other, I learned too along the way that the California GOP, some of the higher ups in the GOPs are not really true patriots. They do not really have our best interests at heart. They do not really love President Trump, and they don't like the real patriot, grassroots, anti-establishment candidates. And they continue to back and support the establishment rhino kind of candidates. So there was a lot of kind of dirty tricks that were used against me, and there was a lot of tension in this war. And I talk a lot about that in the book as well. It's like it just makes it became abundantly clear that the rhino situation is very real, and there's really kind of a glass ceiling for real patriots getting elected into office. And I'm not saying it's not impossible. All the more reason why we have to run, why ordinary Americans who don't necessarily consider themselves the perfect polished politician, but their hearts are in the right place and they really are passionate about America, they should run. And we've got to do everything to support those candidates, because the establishment does make it difficult for new real patriots to get into office, but we need those more than anything. Yeah, I'm not really a normal, I guess. I'm sort of a freak, and that's a blessing and a curse in life. I just kind of, when I want something or I see a vision for something, I tend to go for it, even though it could seem like sort of an impossible feat. So no, this was my first time running for any office, and it taught me so much. There's a lot that I learned from it that I'll share, in the book, especially in more detail. But I want to encourage people that you don't necessarily have to, we always think, wow, running for office, that feels like someone that was groomed in a political pedigree, went to Harvard, just parents were political. They grew up in that kind of an environment, and they were primed their whole life for that. But I really want to encourage people that are just, again, ordinary Americans, but whose hearts are in the right place, and who can, who can be fast learners. And obviously it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve to really understand once you, learn everything once you get elected. But AOC sort of, I would say Trump, actually, he set the bar because he is not a politician, but he won for the highest level of office. He won for the president of the United States. Absolute insanity, without, against all odds. And then AOC really lowered that bar because she was just a bartender and she made it into Congress. So, it's not impossible. It's a little bit harder. I think if I run again, which I'm definitely planning on to, I may not run against Nancy Pelosi, only for the fact, as much as I love running against her, but it's just, I really want to run and make sure that I'm elected next time.
Right.
And I'm going to take, winning in a more, a really winnable district,
Well, that's good to hear. I was hoping that you weren't just going to do a one and done. There are so many different offices that you could be elected into. And the important thing is you've got the name recognition now. I mean, you've been on television. People know who you are. Obviously, you have people talking to you and about you on Twitter. So, just keep going with it. And thank you very much, guys. For some reason, when I asked you the question, Deanna, my mic was muted, but I hadn't actually muted it. So it's working now. That's good to know. Glad to hear it. So we had somebody in the audience want to ask about the amount of money that it is required to run for Congress. From being a political candidate myself, you do a lot of fundraisers. Did you have any type of funding outside of your own money? And were there any big money people behind you trying to help you get in there?
Well, yeah, obviously it takes a lot of money. I had to dip a lot into my own savings, the first couple of months, but, before I really started getting the machine running with fundraising. But then my fundraising machine, really started kicking in, and I got, donors from all over the country, which was amazing. I wouldn't say that, it's not like a certain amount of money that you have to have in order to start a campaign or to run it successfully. But the more that you have, the better.
Mm-hmm.
You should probably have at least $5,000 or $10,000, going into the campaign in the beginning stages, so you can get some of those initial things bought and paid for. But at the end, I think I clocked out at around $280,000 that I raised. A lot of people also, a lot of the big donors and PACs, they won't contribute until you've won your primary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of the challenge a lot of candidates like myself ran into a lot. So you're going to get more like small dollar donors until you win your primary, unless you win your primary. But you just you really just got to get out there a lot, and you got to do email fundraising, you got to do online fundraising, phone fundraising, and just have a lot of different means to collect money. You can only scrimp by for so long. Eventually, you're going to have to purchase ads. You're going to have to purchase some very expensive things in the campaign.
Yeah, that's one of the things I don't know that people necessarily understand. You can run a campaign on absolutely no money, but you're probably not going to get past that first primary. You've got to get literature, you've got to get merchandise, yard signs, anything that's collateral for the campaign, and then obviously you need people to help you out. Were you able to put together a team of volunteers at least that were willing to help you get it off the ground?
Definitely. And I just wanted to apologize again for the sun. It's like literally for my eyes during this period, but it should go away a little bit. I did. I had, luckily I'm so grateful because I had so many supporters from all over the nation and really, really backing me. As far as locally, I gathered a great ground team of supporters who really believed in me, and they were helping me, door knock and canvass and fundraise and do all the different things, required for campaigning and getting out the vote. So I did have a lot of enthusiastic people. And that's, that's a product of having a strong message and really a strong campaign. I think I talk about this a lot in my book, but it's so important to be clear on who you are and what your message is instead of being wishy-washy. Because a lot of people think, well, I could appeal to more people maybe get more votes if I'm a little more in the center,
Right.
and I kind of skirt around certain issues and I'm more politically correct. I was warned about that so many times by people, especially living in the most liberal district in the country, San Francisco. But, I just felt like I wanted to be true to who I am. And I'm not going to be like soft around certain things because I have strong opinions. I freaking love our president. I'm strong on borders. I'm pro-life. There's so many things that I have really strong opinions about. And that's going to turn off a lot of people, especially in a liberal district. But I also felt like because my views were so strong and I was so loud and proud about them, it also brought in people to me that were like, they just loved me. They really got behind me very passionately instead of the other candidates that were very much more lukewarm. And so then I had more lukewarm campaign team and volunteers and supporters.
And just real quick, Grippill, that this is also that murky waters when it comes to finances, because people are donating to a lot of these campaigns with wanting another, a back scratching situation in mind. There's an agenda to fund these people, and obviously you coming out with a strong message, it would make people hesitant. They're like, well, I can't buy this lady to get away with certain things that I want to do, but it's commendable, because a lot of these people, they're campaigning and they already know what kind of money they're going to have in their pocket because they have these agreements that they're going to fight for things that are obviously agenda driven.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I had people even say I should run as an independent or run as a dino, say that I'm a Democrat, and then, suddenly after I get elected, then I just vote all Republican. But, that just feels like trickery. And we have enough of those frauds in office already. And although it may win more votes, maybe, I would rather lose than, I'd rather lose an election, but be true to who I am and be a champion for these conservative values than sell out, and just be lukewarm about things or pretend I'm a certain way when I'm really not. That's my strategy, and it's tend to work, but other people may disagree.
Well, I mean, I think that so far it's served you well, and I think it's going to set you up good for the future. I'd like to pivot now. I want to get your thoughts on what is happening in the country. We've just gone through a very intense time. We had the whole CV-19 debacle, however you want to phrase it. And then, just as the country is starting to open up again, all of a sudden, there's this very tragic event that takes place in Minneapolis, and then everybody's energy is directed into tearing the country apart. I mean, have you seen anything directly out there in San Francisco? Have they allowed San Francisco to be destroyed in the same way that they've allowed many other communities in America to be destroyed?
Yeah, and I also just want to make there's so many oddities about everything. There's so many coincidences about everything. Like on Memorial Day, everyone was finally starting to get out of their caves. And, the restrictions were supposed to be lifted that week, the lockdown restrictions. People were outside, they were gathering for Memorial Day. And that day was the George Floyd, incident. That was the death that day. And within 24 hours, everything got locked up back again because of the protests and the rioting that began. Mm-hmm. It's all bizarre. It's all very coincidental. And California has gotten it probably the worst. Maybe, California and New York, but, and it's specifically like LA and San Francisco, very, very liberal mayors. We have Eric Garcetti and Mayor London Breed, and they are just, having the police stand down basically while these rioters went looting and ripping through these beautiful places. In Santa Monica, at least, like in LA, there's Santa Monica, there's Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, and these people just rip through them, burning, looting, ruining stores and businesses. It's just the most crazy thing. And the police basically had stand down orders while these cities are getting destroyed. And protests, the protests, there's been thousands and thousands of people protesting, at least. And I just find it so bizarre that these mayors and the governor still won't open up fully the lockdown restrictions but yet they're allowing thousands of people not social distance, not wearing a mask, protest and riot together. it's literally making it, even businesses still haven't opened yet. Restaurants, bars, nothing has opened yet, or salons, per these mayors and the governor's orders. But the rioting and the protests continue.
Yeah, they'll not allow hair salons to open, but people are shaving their heads for the movement to stand. The irony is there for sure.
Because save money,
right? But no, you're right. There is a lot, and we'll just use the word coincidences. But everybody here listening gets it. The bias itself, the hypocrisy of you can't social distancing, we still need to do it, there's going to be a second wave coming, we're going to have to stay locked down, but because you're out there doing something that's meaningful, and you are allowed your First Amendment, I guess only when it matters towards an agenda, they allow it and welcome it. I had seen a screenshot from Fox News, and it was the new orders and stuff, and somewhere was you can gather now of up to 12 people, something like that they said, but if you're protesting you could do 100. And last time I checked, viruses weren't like, oh, okay, you're doing something that I'm just not going to come over in that area because you're protesting for a good cause. Viruses aren't biased.
No.
And so the fact that they are going after this narrative and trying to sell it, anybody that's paying attention is ripping their hair out, metaphorically, because we are having such a problem with the bias of this stuff. Because how many people lost, had to fire people during this stuff, or lost wages, or had to go on unemployment. One of our closest friends here in the chat, Jojo K, was having to put her house up for sale because of everything going on. To me, it's such a bias that there's going to be a level of anger that's swelling up, and I know that they want us to go crazy and then blame it as Trump supporters are now doing this, backlash situation. But there is that anger. I mean, how you've got to obviously be talking to people out there in California that do agree with you and support the president and all that. What are your friends saying that are out there in the middle of all this?
Oh, I mean, we're very angry. I mean, my conservative friends at least are extremely angry. They think this is insane. We've been protesting the lockdowns for over a month now. And of course, we're all healthy. We're all still perfectly healthy. None of us have gotten sick. And, we just it's unbelievable to us. It's just so unfair that the insanity and the clear agenda is just so obvious to us that it's hard sometimes when you're around people who don't see it as obvious. But the funny thing is, I've talked to a lot of people just of different, all across the political spectrum in California, and I would say 80% of people, even if they're Democrats, they're also realizing that this is just bogus. This doesn't make sense. There's so many things about, COVID that doesn't make sense, right? There are so many things about the lockdowns that don't make sense, and there's a lot of things about these riots and protests that don't really make sense. And I do think that luckily a lot more people are waking up because of these things. And people in California have been very active, for over a month. We've been protesting up and down California, protesting the lockdowns and also the unfairness of this. Most of the time when you'll see a BLM rally over the last week or protest, you're going to see a bunch of patriots go to that protest now to make sure that stays safe.
Nice.
That businesses that get looted, there's nothing turned down. We're going to protect the businesses, and we're going to protect people from this domestic terrorist scum. It's funny because just yesterday there was the specific terrorist group that I think you know what the name is. They said that they were going to go to Placerville, California, and they were going to, they're going to show up there. And then Bikers for Trump and Hell's Angels announced, well, we're going to go there too. We're going to meet you there. We're going to meet you there. And then the group backed off. They called it off. Chicken.
Cut.
In reality, they're like, I don't want to be met with the Hell's Angels. And that was sheriff, and that's the kind of fight back we need right now. We need Hell's Angels to stand up. We need patriots to stand up and protect businesses. We have people now that are protecting and guarding their businesses and stores with guns. They're coming up there, or they're bringing a buddy or two. They're standing outside or standing on their rooftop with guns. They're like, we're on our own. If the police aren't going to protect us because they're giving stand down orders, and the government here is not going to protect us. This is like the wild, wild west, baby. We've got to defend ourselves. So I like this, people, patriots coming together and defending and fighting back. I think that's very important, and anyone can fight back in their own way. And until we have some changes that are going to really protect us, we have to think that we've got to protect and defend ourselves however we can, and we've got to fight back.
Well, that aspect of it may be even more important in the future. In certain cities, they are talking about defunding the police. We just had de Blasio in New York. I believe Garcetti in Los Angeles also saying the same thing. Is there any talk of doing that in San Francisco? I mean, it seems to me they don't have enough public servants as it is if they can't keep the streets clean. And
that's what makes no sense to me, In LA, we saw the whole city get ruined because of stand down orders, and because the police weren't doing their job, and they were told to not do their job. Mm-hmm. Then you want to fund the police and take that $100 million into quote unquote racial, to solve racism, quote unquote, and then to give policemen training classes, racial sensitivity training classes, to basically stifle their instincts and reverse the training that they've had for so many years. So this is just a complete insanity. It's all inverted reality. I believe they're looking towards doing the same thing in San Francisco. And again, they can't even pick up the poop on the streets. There's the homeless problem continues to grow and grow. There's drugs on the streets. There's so much that is just out of control that they can't even control yet. Why would defunding the police lead to any kind of a better outcome? Because it's so blatant, you just know it's an agenda. There's just no other way to describe it.
Things are about to get real bad. If they defund the police in any major city, it's going to be complete and total anarchy. And I was trying to make this point to somebody the other day. If they defund the police, then these groups that are going to these cities and destroying them right now, the next thing they're going to start doing is coming for people individually. And it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. If you don't perfectly align with whatever their extreme views are, they're going to come for you, and you're going to be next in the firing squad.
Yeah, it's really scary. It's just amazing what they're talking about, and the level of coordination that a lot of this is. I was just taking screenshots. I've been taking screenshots of every time a news alert comes in that's a headline reflecting police brutality, right? Or racism towards blacks. And it's just constant. I mean, I think I counted like 20 different headlines in the last 24 hours that all dominate the news. It's all police brutality, pandemic, and which they're calling a pandemic now, and inciting race wars. So this is the narrative that they're really trying to switch to now. They're really trying to create a civil war, and they're trying to defund and dismantle the police. And that's a very dangerous thing. And people, sadly, are falling for it still. It's incredible how many people are still falling for this BS narrative and playing right into this plan.
Someone in the chat.
No, real quick, Ripple. To that point, I kept seeing headlines like 3 or 4 days after Floyd had, what happened with George Floyd. They had to make sure in the headline they would do the commas and say the man that was murdered, the black man that was murdered by the white cop with the knee. They had to add it, but we have George Floyd everywhere. Everybody knows his name. They had to keep making sure people understood what happened in the headline, because they know a lot of people just read the headlines and then they think that they're woke or whatever. So yeah, I think to me it's absolutely disgusting. Being red-pilled and waking up, you see these things and you just shake your head and you're like, you could tell what they're going for, and it's filthy.
It's really evil. It's really evil stuff. Then we had Obama last week come out with this webinar series of reimagining police. Obama always just like pipes up, right? He piped up during COVID. Now he's piping up here, and he's always got his own plan of what people should be doing instead. This is the new plan. So now his new thing is a blueprint for reimagining policing, which is very scary. And teaching people, he has a whole blueprint for teaching people how to take concrete action. And
always that word.
action, very convenient when there's piles of bricks left around all around the country where looters and rioters are. But yeah, I mean, it's all coordinated, and it's very scary that people are really buying into it. That's the other scary thing. I was just at a BLM protest yesterday in Huntington Beach, and it was interesting because, we had Patriots on one side and the BLM on the other side, and it lasted for hours and hours. And the kinds of things they were just screaming is, dismantling the police, defund the police. And I'm thinking, like, what happens when you get hurt? What happens when you need the police? What are you going to do?
Yeah, don't worry about calling 911. You're not going to be able to. So in the last 2 hours, the Minneapolis City Council has put together a veto-proof majority to actually disband the police. So it's no longer just talk. They're actually going to do it. So I have no idea what that's going to look like afterwards. Are they going to create something new, or are they just going to live in a completely lawless city? I mean, Minneapolis, one of the larger cities here in the United States, you got to think that there's quite a bit of crime going on any given day.
Well, and just real quick to this point, I'd love to get your take on that, Deanna. They're obviously goading the president to use the Insurrection Act laws, because you would have to. If you're going to have no police, it's going to be chaos. And you've already seen what's going on in Minnesota with a little bit of it. They want him to do something that's dictator-like to fill the narrative that they've been fueling for years. But yeah, what do you think about it, Deanna?
Well, I mean, I think that the president needs to do what he's got to do. And, no matter what he does, they're going to say the same thing. They're going to repeat the same narrative. And even though up to all this point, he's proven that he's not a dictator, because he's left everything up to the government, the governors, he's left everything up to the state and the mayors. And even when people are kind of begging for him to step in almost at this point, he has followed the Constitution to the letter, and he's not created nationwide resolutions during the whole COVID situation. But if they're not going to do their jobs, if the local police or mayors or governors aren't going to do their jobs, and in fact even intentionally aid and abet them, then I think the president needs to step in and do what he's got to do. Send out the National Guard. As long as we don't have a permanent police state, I'm okay with a temporary period of control, so that we can just get a handle on all of this, and also arrest some bad actors and cleanse everything of all this corruption that we're seeing.
We got to drain the swamp. Deanna, do you know what happened earlier today? Apparently a California sheriff's deputy and perhaps somebody else in their department were injured in Northern California. Looks like a man named Stephen Carrillo was captured and charged with murder. Do you know anything about that? Have they reported that there?
I thought I was on social media most of the day, but no, I heard about it. You want to tell me about it?
I mean, that's really all. I had wondered if, since you're there, I mean, California is a big state, but I mean, I just wondered if they were talking about it more there. All I've seen was just one article. There was a sheriff's deputy, Sergeant Damon Gutzwiller. Last night, apparently, he was killed in an ambush in Northern California, and there was a second officer that was wounded in the attack. And the man who did it, Stephen Carrillo, was arrested. He'll face charges. And I thought that I had heard that he was a military guy. He was from a base there, but I'm not seeing that now that I'm looking at this article. But
no, well, here in the chat, Tranquility Base is saying, and obviously I can't sauce it, saying yes, he was deleted. I'll use that word. A cop yesterday in my neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's got to be definitely a scary thing, because that's got to be all over the news in general. Well, you would hope it would be, even though it is a cop, and right now the narrative is cops are bad. Because I mean, I'm even seeing that around. I mean, we're on Twitter, we read some things. I don't mind like drifting off to liberal Twitter to see what they're talking about, and the whole narrative is If you support cops, you're a fascist. If you support the president, you're the same. And it's just this straight cut and dry situation. And I have a story that I can tell from a friend, so I do trust it. It's not anything that's breaking news stuff, so don't hate me on no sauce. But they were telling me about how they had a relative, I think it was a sister, that was at a gas station, I think in New York, and they were Caucasian, and there was an African American woman behind her and said, "You should pay for my drink," and pushing towards this whole thing about let's all kiss up to African Americans because of what's happened, the injustices. And they didn't know that my friend's sister is a black belt that apparently carries nunchucks or something, like some kind of weapon on them, like they're hardcore into it. And she pulled it out and said, "Oh, you expect for me to kneel down too?" And apparently the woman ran out the door apologizing. But I mean, there is that point, and that's where it gets kind of dangerous, because the narrative, there is an understanding of this injustice. We can all agree that there is these things that happen. I live in the South, and I could maybe think of one situation to where I met somebody who was white, and they said something, and I'm like, that's a racist. That's one of them. Like, but it's not anything I've seen throughout the years. And the fact that they use that narrative so far is, at what point are you abusing it so far to where it loses its value if you're genuinely trying to make a change?
That point was like 3 years ago. I mean, I just like the term racist carries zero weight anymore because of how much they've overplayed that card. And what they're doing, all the Black Lives Matter protests and everything, what they're screaming about, unfortunately, it's really, I mean, it's falling on deaf ears. I don't think they care even that it falls on deaf ears, but it is, because they just, they need to at least have their facts straight. Number one, they can't create such a black and white narrative. Like, if you support police, all of a sudden that makes you racist or makes you insensitive to the black plight or black issues. It is true too that more white people were killed last year than blacks, as far as accidental killings from police officers to civilians. So there were more white deaths. Why aren't they at least, their facts need to be straight for them to be taken seriously, and their way that they go about the protests and what their demands need to be taken, need to actually have validity for people to take it seriously too. And just like Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem, it just angers people, because that, if he legitimately wanted to protest an issue, there's literally any other time that he could do it. But to choose that one moment that's supposed to bring Americans together to make it about a certain issue is utter BS, and we just, it's just, I don't even get me started on that one, but they're intentionally choosing the way that protest to be inflammatory, and hated on by like half of America. And that's what's so disgusting about all of it.
Absolutely. Methods, is it possible for you to turn the gain down on your mic just a little bit? Because I had to increase it on my end because Deanna's was a little bit lower.
All right. Now that explains why I'm getting it in the chat. Then I got you, bud.
Okay. All right. Sweet. All right. I'm sorry. I just got to fix this again real quick. Well, Deanna, what do you see as the next hot button issue going from here into November? Any ideas on what they might have in store for us? I mean, do you think that they're going to be able to keep these riots and this unrest up until the election? Or do you think they're going to come up with a different October surprise for us?
Oh my God. It's literally like we're watching a movie right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the popcorn just keeps flowing because it's one thing after another. And I feel like we're just like stuck in a really bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that we're into. And then it's Purge, and then it's Outbreak, and all sorts of different transitions. But I don't know, I think, obviously the murder hornets didn't work.
Yeah, that was their big one there that they were gonna do. But yeah, and you made this point on Twitter, and we were laughing about it.
Oh my God!
Are we gonna get the fake aliens?
I think so. I think the next big thing is COVID, the sequel, because they're going to say, well, because of all the rioters and protests, now it's another onslaught of COVID. So I think they're going to try to use that angle. Let's shut everything back down again because of all the protesters carrying the COVID. I think this is another reason why they also wanted to really push for contact tracers, so that could help with that narrative. So they can say, well, all these contact tracers found all these people to be COVID positive. So I think COVID, the sequel, is going to come back. I think some sort of a wild animal is going to come from another country and bring us
right.
to. And I think that some sort of probably accusation or something against President Trump to incite another kind of civil war type scenario is probably going to happen. I can't see this race war going on for another couple months without enough people waking up to it for it to kind of neutralize it. What do you guys think, though? What do you think is going to be the next big thing?
Repo, you can go first, and then I'm good to go.
Everything is up, is game now. The idea of the aliens, many people have mentioned perhaps an asteroid threat. I think it has to be something nebulous like that we can't defend against. I do want to say hello to In Pursuit of Truth. He's in the chat. Thanks for popping in, buddy. And let me say thank you to Kathy and Sharon and Hey Jude as well. I appreciate all of you guys for dropping those super chats. What I'm considering is that they're going to push President Trump's hand, force him to have to do something like, bring actual troops in because now there's not police. He has, a plausible reason to do it, but they're going to say that he is now some type of mad dictator and he must be removed as a result. That seems to me to be the most likely thing. But at this point, I can't rule out aliens. Absolutely. I think that's something that could happen. I mean, that's been one of those things we've been waiting on for a long time to show up. But, they could easily do it, I think.
And the thing about it is something that we can almost not say no to. They're so disgusting and nefarious that they're but very sophisticated that it makes it difficult sometimes to say no to certain things or speak up about certain things. Like I've been sounding the alarm a lot on the whole contact tracing thing and mandatory vaccines, that some people are anticipating may come down the pipe. And it's like they put the president in a certain position where they corner him, or they create an event that makes more than half of the country feel like something is necessary and then demonize the other half that doesn't want it. And the alien invasion would be very sophisticated because it's like, okay, well, there it is. What are we all going to do about it? We're kind of stuck. And that would be pretty terrifying. But at this point, it's kind of like, when you're at war and you're out of ammunition, you've expended all your ammunition, then typically the opponent just like blows everything up because they have no other strategy left. They have no other ammunition left. And I feel like we're at that point where they're just trying to just blow everything up. I don't know if they really have any other ammunition left, except for something increasingly more like ridiculous or dramatic. And the fake alien invasion would fall into that.
I've also been considering maybe like a dirty bomb or a nuke or something like that. That could be, very possible. And of course, yeah.
No, I don't mean to cut you off, but yeah, just to all this, Ripple, to give my 2 cents on that. One, obviously, investing in Alien Lives Matter shirts we would already make and be set up. Maybe we can, fund your next campaign off of them. But as far as all that goes, they are building that narrative that ex-military or people of military for a long time, they're supposed to be, respected based off of their, their resume. They're already planning on using that narrative on saying these people are saying Trump's unfit. And they're military, they're 3-4 star, whatever. They're going to go after that route in the smear campaign. I do agree with the second movie of the Kung Flu happening, so they can keep everybody indoors because they're going to have to blame him with that as well. They're already trying to open up investigations into Trump on how he's handling all of these things. in multiple levels. So obviously they're going to want to call hearings and all that stuff. So I think that their plan is to just do the just the onslaught of different things happening at once, the death blossom, if you will, to attack him. But there's got to be, obviously, there's so many cards in Trump's deck right now that he could be using, and just casually having Graham do these subpoenas and asking questions and stuff, to me, is like the introduction to getting into that world of what has Durham been doing.
I know, and I'm sure you guys are at that same place too. Like right now, I'm like so frustrated and so like getting a little bit impatient, I have to say. I am very faithful with trusting the plan and trusting the aces that the president has up his sleeve. But I'm getting a little antsy these days because it feels like patriots are not necessarily in control. There's times where it can feel that way or look this way because, like, okay, who's really winning this war right now? It seems like a lot of us, good people, good Americans, are at a disadvantage. But then again, we have to remember that optics are everything, and sometimes what appears to be so isn't necessarily the case. But I am sure ready for the president to just drop the hammer and start making some of these needed arrests and bringing these people to justice. Because if it doesn't happen before the election, we have a very scary election, obviously, process. And I think these kinds of things that this kind of dismantling of corruption in the deep state, I really think it needs to be exposed before the election. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I just feel like before the election would be definitely the right time and not afterwards.
I would love to see it before the election. Part of the optics that we're seeing right now, I mean, a piece of this is appear weak when you're strong. And right now it is almost as if, that's exactly what's happening. President Trump, his team, they've got so much happening behind the scenes that we're not privy to. And I just cannot believe that all of these sealed indictments are going to lead to a dead end. I can't believe that we're not going to see these people get justice. If that was the case, then President Trump would not be taking the actions that he is to continue to make the country better. I mean, this whole time, the wall has been built, okay? It's been continually being built across our southern border. It keeps giving us, additional legislation there. They're pulling in Comey and McCabe to testify. I would imagine there's going to be quite a few bombshells in that testimony. And now, since they're following Rod Rosenstein, there's no way that they can hide behind anything. I mean, Rod Rosenstein squarely put the onus on them. I mean, they knew what and when. Rod Rosenstein came in afterwards. So I have to think that everything is on track, but, we're not in the team. We're not in the administration, so we're just not privy to it.
I know. And I have to keep reminding myself that, just keep my faith strong. But it can be a little nerve-wracking sometimes, and it definitely tests your faith if you're a normal human being, I think, sometimes, especially given all the circumstances that are around us. Mm-hmm. You ultimately believe everything, and I do believe that he, the president doesn't typically make statements that don't later appear to be true, and he's been going hard on Obamagate lately and Jane Comey and all of these things that are suddenly becoming part of the conversation now publicly. I do think justice is going to be served. We just got to be a little patient.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we're about to round out the hour. I need to say thank you to Paul. Thank you to Karen. Thank you to another Paul. And thank you to Lorraine and Ivana and Shirley. Appreciate all of you. So, Deanna, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to give you the last couple of words. I mean, what is it that you want people to know about you and take away from the show tonight?
Yeah, well, I'm a big share of truth. I feel like I've been put here for a reason, and part of my role is to be a warrior, leading, on the front lines of this fight that we're in right now. We really are at war to take back America. And I'm, as you probably know from following me on Twitter, which I would recommend you to follow me. It's where all my action is. And the president's retweeted me quite a few times too, which I love. but I don't hold back. I don't hold back the punches. I really just share the truth, and I think that's so important right now. And yes, there's always a risk that I could get banned, and I hope that day doesn't happen. But we've all got to share the truth. This is an information war, and it's also a physical war to be fought. But I think right now we're really in that information warfare period, where we're going to need digital soldiers as much as possible, and people being outspoken, sharing the truth. So I would encourage you guys to really step up your game as a digital soldier in this information war, and step up in your leadership and activism as much as possible. If you follow me, you're going to see that I post some pretty bold things, but it's just really the truth. And it's crazy that the truth has been considered bold at this point. I will do everything in my power to make sure that our president gets reelected and other great patriots get in office. I will probably run again. This is definitely, my game has just gotten started. And I would love for you guys to not only follow me, but check back in when my book is ready. July 7th is when it's going to be fully ready so that you can buy, but we're going to start our launch in about June 21st. And that is At War for America, What I Learned Fighting Nancy Pelosi and the Deep State.
Awesome. Well, you already have an open invitation to come back, so definitely you'll be back here on the show once that book comes out. Tell everybody just one more time where they can find you, best ways to get in touch with you.
Yeah, definitely. Go to my Twitter at Deanna4Congress. That's DEANNA, the number 4, Congress. You can find me on Instagram, Deanna4Congress, as well as the Facebook, Deanna4Congress. And my website is DeannaLorraine.com. That's DeannaLorraine.com. Also, just want to let you know, too, I do a podcast every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 12 time, and that's streamed on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, and YouTube. So check out my podcast. I do question and answer. I talk with the chat and everything, and go over all the latest breaking news of the day.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'm sure we all had a great time. I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to the mods for keeping the chat comfy. And thank you to everybody who donated. Methods, did you have a good time?
Absolutely. It went how I expected it to. Deanna's great. Once again, thank you for being here. I'm sure we'll do this again. And when your book comes out, we'll make sure everybody knows about it.
Okay, good. And maybe next time the sun won't be like directly.
We'll have to schedule around the sun to make it work.
We'll do one of the streams on Friday or Saturday, so it will already have set. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Make sure you go follow Deanna on Twitter, and then check out all her other stuff. Get her book, and then we'll see you here again next time. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.